Hello and welcome to Abide with me. I pray that these readings and verses find you well and add a little bit of light to your day. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let us know, have you come across any of these verses before? Which is your favorite? And do you have any extra verse that could come in handy for a brother or sister in need? Please let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you and enjoy. And Zilpah, his father's concubines. He brought bad reports to his father about what his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than all his other sons because he had been born to him when he was old. He made a long robe with full sleeves for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than he loved them, they hated their brother so much that they would not speak to him in a friendly manner. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him even more. He said, "Listen to the dream I had. We were all in the field, tying up sheaves of wheat, when my sheaf got up and stood up straight. Yours formed a circle around mine and bowed to it. Do you think you are going to be a ruler and king over us?" his brother asked. So they hated him even more because of his dreams and because of what he said about them. Then Joseph had another dream and said to his brothers, "I had another dream in which I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me." He also told the dream to his father, and his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that? Do you think that your mother, your brothers, and I are going to come and bow down to you?" Joseph's brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept thinking about the whole matter. One day, when Joseph's brothers had gone to Shechem to take care of their father's flock, Jacob said to Joseph, "I want you to go to Shechem, where your brothers are taking care of my flock." Joseph answered, "I am ready." His father said, "Go and see if your brothers are safe, and if the flock is all right. Then come back and tell me." So his father sent him on his way from the valley of Hebron. Joseph arrived at Shechem and was wandering about in the country, when a man saw him and asked him, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for my brothers who are taking care of their flock," he answered. "Can you tell me where they are?" The man said, "They have already left. I heard them say that they were going to Dothan." So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted against him and decided to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes that dreamer. Come on now, let's kill him and throw his body into one of the dry wells. We can say that a wild animal killed him. Then we will see what will become of his dream." Reuben heard them and tried to save Joseph. "Let's not kill him," he said. "Just throw him into this well in the wilderness, but don't hurt him." He said this, planning to save him from them and send him back to his father. When Joseph came up to his brothers, they ripped off his long robe with full sleeves. Then they took him and threw him into the well, which was dry. When they were eating, they suddenly saw a group of Ishmaelites traveling from Gilead to Egypt. Their camels were loaded with spices and resins. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother and covering up the murder? Let's sell him to these Ishmaelites. Then we won't have to hurt him. After all, he's our brother, our own flesh and blood." His brothers agreed, and when some Midianite traders came by, the brothers pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. When Reuben came back to the well and found that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes in sorrow. He returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is not there. What am I going to do?" Then they killed a goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. They took the robe to their father and said, "We found him. Does it belong to your son?" He recognized it and said, "Yes, it is his. Some wild animal has killed him. My son Joseph has been torn into pieces, tore his clothes in sorrow, and put on sackcloth. He mourned for his son a long time." All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "I will go down to the world of the dead, still mourning for my son." But he continued to mourn for his son, Joseph. Now the Ishmaelites had taken Joseph to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, one of the king's soldiers, who was the captain of the palace guard. The Lord was with Joseph and made him successful. He lived in the house of his Egyptian master, who saw the Lord was with Joseph and had made him successful in everything he did. Potiphar was pleased with him and made him his personal servant. So he put him in charge of everything in his house and everything he owned. From then on, because of Joseph, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian and everything that he had in his house and in his fields. Potiphar handed over everything he had to the care of Joseph and did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Joseph was well built and good looking, and after a while, his master's wife began to desire Joseph and asked him to go to bed with her. He refused and said to her, "Look, my master does not have to concern himself with anything in the house because I am here. He has put me in charge of everything he has. I have as much authority in this house as he has, and he has not kept anything away from me except you. How then could I do such an immoral thing and sin against God?" Although she asked Joseph day after day, he would not go to bed with her. But one day, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, none of the house servants were there. She caught him by his robe and said, "Come to bed with me." But he escaped and ran outside, leaving. When she saw that he had left his robe and had run out of the house, she called to her servants and said, "Look at this. That Hebrew that my husband brought is insulting us. He came into my room and tried to rape me, but I screamed as loud as I could. When he heard me scream, he ran outside, leaving his robe beside me." She kept his robe with her until Joseph's master came home. Then she told him the same story. "That Hebrew slave that you brought here came into my room and insulted me. But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his robe beside me." Joseph's master was furious and had Joseph arrested and put in prison where the king's prisoners were kept. There he stayed. But the Lord was with Joseph and blessed him, so that the jailer was pleased with him. He put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and made him responsible for everything that was done in the prison. The jailer did not have to look after anything for which Joseph was responsible, because the Lord was with Joseph and made him succeed. And the thin ears of corn swallowed the full ones. The king woke up and realized that he had been dreaming. In the morning, he was worried, so he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. He told them his dreams, but no one could explain them to him. Then the wine steward said to the king, "I must confess today that I have done wrong. You were angry with the chief baker and me, and put us in prison in the house of the captain of the guard. One night, each of us had a dream, and the dreams had different meanings. A young Hebrew was there with us, a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us. Things turned out just as he said. You restored me to my position, but you executed the baker." The king sent for Joseph, and he was immediately brought out from the prison. After he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came into the king's presence. The king said to him, "I have had a dream and no one can explain it. I have been told that you can interpret dreams." Joseph answered, "I cannot, Your Majesty, but God will give a favorable interpretation." The king said, "I dreamt I was standing on the bank of the Nile when 7 cows, fat and sleek, came up out of the river and began feeding on the grass. Then 7 other cows came up, which were thin and bony. They were the poorest cows I have ever seen anywhere in Egypt. The thin cows ate up the fat ones, but no one would have known it because they looked just as bad as before. Then I woke up. I also dreamt that I saw 7 ears of corn, which were full and ripe, growing on one stalk. Then 7 ears of corn sprouted, thin and scorched by the desert wind, and the thin ears of corn swallowed the full ones. I told the dreams to the magicians, but none of them could explain them to me. Joseph said to the king, "The two dreams mean the same thing. God has told you what he's going to do. The 7 fat cows are 7 years, and the 7 full ears of corn are also 7 years. They have the same meaning. The 7 thin cows which came up later, and the 7 thin ears of corn scorched by the desert wind, are 7 years of famine. It is just as I told you. God has shown you what he is going to do. There will be 7 years of great plenty in the land of Egypt. After that, there will be 7 years of famine, and all the good years will be forgotten, because the famine will ruin the country. The time of plenty will be entirely forgotten, because the famine which follows will be so terrible. The repetition of your dream means that the matter is fixed by God, and that he will make it happen in the near future. Now, you should choose some man with wisdom and insight and put him in charge of the country. You must also appoint other officials and take 1/5 of the crops during the 7 years of plenty. Order them to collect all the food during the good years that are coming, and give them authority to store up corn in the cities and guard it. The food will be a reserve supply for the country during the 7 years of famine, which are going to come on Egypt. In this way, the people will not starve." The king and his officials approved this plan, and he said to them, "We will never find a better man than Joseph, a man who has God's spirit in him." The king said to Joseph, "God has shown you all this, so it is obvious that you have greater wisdom and insight than anyone else. I will put you in charge of my country, and all my people will obey your orders. Your authority will be second only to mine. I now appoint you governor over all Egypt." The king removed from his finger the ring engraved with the royal seal and put it on Joseph's finger. He put a fine linen robe on him and placed a gold chain around his neck. He gave him the 2nd royal chariot to ride in, and his guard of honor went ahead of him and cried out, "Make way, make way." And so Joseph was appointed governor over all Egypt. The king said to him, "I am the king, and no one in Egypt shall so much as lift a hand or a foot without your permission." He gave Joseph the Egyptian name Zaphenath-Paneah, and he gave him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potipherah, a priest in the city of Heliopolis. Joseph was 30 years old when he began to serve the king of Egypt. He left the king's court and traveled all over the land. During the 7 years of plenty, the land produced abundant crops, all of which Joseph collected and stored in the cities. In each city, he stored the food from the fields around it. There was so much corn that Joseph stopped measuring it. It was like the sands of the sea. Before the years of famine came, Joseph had 2 sons by Asenath. He said, "God has made me forget all my sufferings and all my father's family." So he named his first son Manasseh. He also said, "God has given me children in the land of my trouble, So he named his second son Ephraim. The 7 years of plenty that the land of Egypt had enjoyed came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began. Just as Joseph had said, there was famine in every other country. Just as Joseph had said, there was famine in every other country, but there was food throughout Egypt. When the Egyptians began to be hungry, they cried out to the king for food. So he ordered them to go to Joseph and do what he told them. The famine grew worse and spread over the whole country. So Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold corn to the Egyptians. People came to Egypt from all over the world to buy corn from Joseph, because the famine was severe everywhere. When Jacob learned that there was corn in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why don't you do something? I hear that there is corn in Egypt. Go there and buy some to keep us from starving to death." So Joseph's 10 half-brothers went to buy corn in Egypt, but Jacob did not send Joseph's full brother Benjamin with them, because he was afraid that something might happen to him. The sons of Jacob came with others to buy corn, because there was famine in the land of Canaan. Joseph, as governor of the land of Egypt, was selling corn to people from all over the world. So Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he acted as if he did not know them. He asked them harshly, "Where do you come from?" "We have come from Canaan to buy food," they answered. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. He remembered the dreams he had dreamt about them and said, "You are spies. You have come to find out where our country is weak." "No, sir," they answered. "We have come as your slaves to buy food. We are all brothers. We are not spies, sir. We are honest men." Joseph said to them, "No, you have come to find out where our country is weak." They said, "We were 12 brothers in all, sir, sons of the same man in the land of Canaan. One brother is dead, and the youngest is now with our father." "It is just as I said," Joseph answered. "You are spies. This is how you will be tested. I swear by the name of the king that you will never leave unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get him. The rest of you will be kept under guard until the truth of what you say can be tested. Otherwise, as sure as the king lives, you are spies." Then he put them in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. To prove that you are honest, one of you will stay in prison where you have been kept. The rest of you may go and take back to your starving families the corn that you have bought. Then you must bring your youngest brother to me. This will prove that you have been telling the truth, and I will not put you to death." They agreed to this and said to one another, "Yes, now we are suffering the consequences of what we did to our brother. We saw the great trouble he was in when he begged for help, but we would not listen. That is why we are in this trouble now." Reuben said to them, "I told you not to harm the boy, but you wouldn't listen, and now we are being paid back for his death." Joseph understood what they said, but they did not know it, because they had been speaking to him through an interpreter. Joseph left them and began to cry. When he was able to speak again, he came back, picked out Simeon, and had him tied up in front of them. Joseph gave orders to fill his brothers' packs with corn, to put each man's money back in his sack, and give them food for the journey. This was done. The brothers loaded their donkeys with the corn they had bought, and then they left. At the place where they spent the night, one of them opened his sack to feed his donkey and found his money at the top of the sack. "My money has been returned to me," he called to his brothers. "Here it is in my sack." Their hearts sank, and in fear they asked one another, "What has God done to us?" And they came to their father Jacob in Canaan. They told him all that had happened to them. The governor of Egypt spoke harshly to us, accused us of spying against his country. "We are not spies," we answered. "We are honest men. We are 12 brothers in all, sons of the same father. One brother is dead, and the youngest is still in Canaan with our father." The man answered, "This is how I will find out if you are honest men. One of you will stay with me. The rest will take ones for your starving families and leave. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I will know that you are not spies, but honest men. I will give your brother back to you, and you can stay here and trade." Then when they emptied out their sacks, every one of them found his bag of money. And when they saw the money, they and their father Jacob were afraid. Their father said to them, "Do you want me to lose all my children? Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take away Benjamin. I am the one who suffers." Reuben said to his father, "If I do not bring Benjamin back to you, you can kill my 2 sons. Put him in my care, and I will bring him back." But Jacob said, "My son cannot go with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. Something might happen to him on the way. I am an old man, and the sorrow you would cause would kill me." The famine in Canaan got worse, and when the family of Jacob had eaten all the corn which had been brought from Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy us a little food." Judah said to him, "The man sternly warned us that we would not be admitted to his presence unless we had our brother with us. If you are willing to send our brother with us, we will go and buy food for you. If you are not willing, we will not go, because the man told us we would not be admitted to his presence unless our brother was with us." Jacob said, "Why did you cause me so much trouble by telling the man that you had another brother?" They answered, "The man kept asking us about our family. Is your father still living? Have you got another brother?" We had to answer his questions. How could we know that he would tell us to bring our brother with us? Judah said to his father, "Send the boy with me, and we will leave at once. Then none of us will starve to death. I pledge my own life, and you can hold me responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you safe and sound, I will always bear the blame. If we had not waited so long, we could have been there and back twice by now." Their father said to them, "If that is how it has to be, then take the best products of the land in your packs as a present for the governor. A little resin, a little honey, spices, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take with you also twice as much money, because you must take back the money that was returned in the top of your sacks. Maybe it was a mistake. Take your brother and return at once. May God Almighty cause the man to have pity on you, so that he will give Benjamin and your other brother back to you. As for me, if I lose my children, I must lose them." So the brothers took the gifts and twice as much money and set out for Egypt with Benjamin. There, they presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the servants in charge of his house, "Take these men to my house. They are going to eat with me at noon. So kill an animal and prepare it." The servants did as he was commanded and took the brothers to Joseph's house. As they were being brought to the house, they were afraid and thought, "We are being brought here because of the money that was returned in our sacks the first time. They will surely attack us, take our donkeys, and make us his slaves." So at the door of the house, they said to the servant in charge, "If you please, sir, we came here once before to buy food. When we set up camp on the way home, we opened our sacks, and each man found his money on top of the sacks, every bit of it. We have brought it back to you. We have also brought some more money with us to buy more food. We do not know who put the money back in our sacks." The servant said, "Don't worry, don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, must have put the money in your sacks. I received your payment." Then he brought Simeon to them. The servant took the brothers into the house. He gave them water so that they could wash their feet, and he fed their donkeys. They got their gifts ready to present to Joseph when he arrived at noon, because they had been told that they were to eat with him. When Joseph got home, they took the gifts into the house to him and bowed down to the ground before him. He asked about their health and said, "You told me about your old father. How is he? Is he still alive and well?" They answered, "Your humble servant, our father, is alive and well." And they knelt and bowed down before him. When Joseph saw his brother Benjamin, he said, "So this is your youngest brother, the one you told me about. God bless you, my son." Then Joseph left suddenly, because his heart was full of tender feelings for his brother. He was about to break down, so he went to his room and cried. After he had washed his face, he came out and, controlling himself, he ordered the meal to be served. Joseph was served at one table and his brothers at another. The Egyptians who were eating there were served separately, because they considered it beneath their dignity to eat with Hebrews. The brothers had been seated at the table facing Joseph, in the order of their age, from the eldest to the youngest. When they saw how they had been seated, they looked to one another in amazement. Food was served to them from Joseph's table. and Benjamin was served 5 times as much as the rest of them. So they ate and drank with Joseph until they were drunk. Joseph commanded the servants in charge of the house, "Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's money on the top of his sack. Put my silver cup in the top of the youngest brother's sack, together with money for his corn." He did as he was told. Early in the morning, the brothers were sent on their way with their donkeys. When they had gone only a short distance from the city, Joseph said to the servants in charge of his house, "Hurry after those men. When you catch up with them, ask them, 'Why have you paid back evil for good? Why did you steal my master's silver cup? It is the one he drinks from, the one he uses for divination. You have committed a serious crime.'" When the servants caught up with them, he repeated these words. They answered him, "What do you mean, sir, by talking like this?" "We swear that we have done no such thing. You know that we brought back to you from the land of Canaan the money we found in the top of our sacks. Why then should we steal silver or gold from your master's house? Sir, if any one of us is found to have it, he will be put to death, and the rest of us will become your slaves." He said, "I agree, but only the one who has taken the cup will become my slave, and the rest of you can go free." So they quickly lowered their sacks to the ground, and each man opened his sack. Joseph's servants searched carefully, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. The brothers tore their clothes in sorrow, loaded their donkeys, and returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They bowed down before him, and Joseph said, "What have you done? Didn't you know that a man in my position could find you out by practicing divination?" "What can we say to you, sir?" Judah answered. "How can we argue? How can we clear ourselves? God has uncovered our guilt. All of us are now your slaves, and not just the one with whom the cup was found." "Oh no," Joseph said. "I would never do that. Only the one who had the cup will be my slave. The rest of you may go back safe and sound to your father." Judah went up to Joseph and said, "Please, sir, allow me to speak with you freely. Don't be angry with me. You are like the king himself. Sir, you asked us, 'Have you got a father or another brother?' We answered, 'We have a father who is old and a younger brother born to him in his old age. The boy's brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's children still alive. His father loves him very much. Sir, you told us to bring him here so that you could see him, and we answered that the boy could not leave his father. If he did, his father would die. Then you said you will not be admitted to my presence again unless your youngest brother comes with you. When we went back to our father, we told him what you had said. Then he told us to return and buy a little food. We answered, 'We cannot go. We will not be admitted to the man's presence unless our youngest brother is with us. We can go only if our youngest brother goes also.' Our father said to us, 'You know that my wife Rachel bore me only 2 sons. One of them has already left me, he must have been torn to pieces by wild animals, because I have not seen him since he left. If you take this one from me now, and something happens to him, the sorrow you would cause me would kill me, old as I am." "And now, sir," Judah continued, "if I go back to my father without the boy, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die. His life is wrapped up with the life of the boy, and he is so old that the sorrow we would cause him would kill him. What is more, I pledged my life to my father for the boy. I told him that if I did not bring the boy back, I would bear all the blame myself. And now, sir, I will stay here as your servant in place of the boy. Let him go back with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I cannot bear to see this disaster come upon my father." Joseph was no longer able to control his feelings in front of his servants, so he ordered them all to leave the room. No one else was in the room when Joseph told his brothers who he was. He cried with such loud sobs that the Egyptians heard it, and the news was taken to the king's palace. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But when his brothers heard this, they were so terrified that they could not answer. Then Joseph said to them, "Please come closer." They did, and he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now, do not be upset or blame yourselves, because you sold me here. It was really God who sent me ahead of you to save people's lives. This is only the second year of the famine in the land. There will be 5 more years in which there will be neither plowing or reaping. God sent me ahead of you to rescue you in this amazing way, and to make sure that you and your descendants survive. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me the king's highest official. I am in charge of his whole country. I am the ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him that this is what his son Joseph says. God has made me ruler of all Egypt. Come to me without delay. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me. You, your children, your grandchildren, your sheep, your goats, your cattle, and everything else that you have. If you are in Goshen, I can take care of you. There will still be 5 years of famine, and I do not want you, your family, and your livestock to starve." Joseph continued, "Now all of you, and you too, Benjamin, can see that I am really Joseph. Tell my father how powerful I am here in Egypt, and tell him about everything that you have seen. Then hurry and bring him here." He threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and began to cry. Benjamin also cried as he hugged him. Then, still weeping, he embraced each of his brothers and kissed them. After that, his brothers began to talk with him. When the news reached the palace that Joseph's brothers had come, the king and his officials were pleased. He said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers to load their animals and to return to the land of Canaan. Let them get their father and their families and come back here. I will give them the best land in Egypt, and they will have more than enough to live on. Tell them also to take wagons with them from Egypt for their wives and small children, and to bring their father with them. They are not to worry about leaving their possessions behind. The best in the whole land of Egypt will be theirs. Jacob's sons did as they were told. Jacob gave them wagons, as the king had ordered, and food for the journey. He also gave each of them a change of clothes, but he gave Benjamin 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothes. He sent his father 10 donkeys loaded with the best Egyptian goods, and 10 donkeys loaded with corn, bread, and other food for the journey. He sent his brothers off, and as they left, he said to them, "Don't quarrel on the way." They left Egypt and went back home to their father Jacob in Canaan. "Joseph is still alive," they told him. "He is the ruler of all Egypt." Jacob was stunned and could not believe them. But when they told him all that Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to him to Egypt, he recovered from the shock. "My son Joseph is still alive," he said. "This is all I could ask for. I must go and see him before I die."